what is Proposition 39? My name is Lope Yap Jr., and I will coordinate the forum here. Today we're with Carolyn Castillo and Tom Rubin. Thank you. So Carolyn, what is Proposition 39?
Proposition 39 was voted in November 7th, 2000. It's known as the School Facilities Local Vote Act of 2000. And the passage of this proposition allowed California school districts to reduce voter approval from 66% to 55% of supermajority voters. The importance of this is that the passage rate for school bonds was difficult to achieve, with only about 60% of the voters approving bond measures until we reduced that threshold. And with that, that allowed about 75% of the bonds to be approved. The proposition allows for school construction required by schools and community colleges. It identifies the accountability requirements to include annual performance and financial audits, prohibits the use of bond funds for salaries and administrative expenses, and it requires facilities use of public charter schools. And it also authorized property taxes in excess of 1%, limited by 50% vote rather than 60% limit. So it was a good thing that happened because we were able to get more school bonds approved throughout California.
Thank you. Tom, any other comments regarding what is Proposition 39?
I think that sums it up pretty well.
Perfect. So Tom, tell me, what is the origin of Citizens Bond Oversight Committee?
Well, you have to go back to the Los Angeles Unified School District, and we went something like almost 30 years during a period of very high growth of students without much at all in the way of new construction. And so by the late 90s, it was getting very critical. The school district, Los Angeles Unified, attempted to pass a school bond issue under the Prop 13 2/3 majority and lost. It got 65%. They hired a pollster who went out and said, you need to do two things to get it passed. One is none of the money is going to be used for administration. That polled very, very negatively. And second, you need to have a bond oversight committee. Those two were put on the ballot, Proposition BB, in 1997, and it passed with 72%. One of the things that was in there that has not followed through to other BOCs is that the members of the BOC were basically appointed, nominated and appointed by stakeholder groups such as PTSA, Chamber of Commerce, etc. Another thing that happened was that we had a legal action that said, due to some disasters in a high school they were building, that all matters that were going to go to the governing board for use of bond funds had to first go to the BOC for its recommendation to the board. But in 2000, when Prop 39 was being put together in the legislature, you can go back and find a great deal of what's in there, including the no administrative costs and the members of the BOC and some other things that came directly from Proposition BB in Los Angeles. And that's how it started, and that's how it's been developing since. Thank you.
Thank you. And excuse me, Carolyn, any thoughts on that as well?
I think it was an important passage that with the use of administrative salaries, that's always been something that's critical that people need to understand. The focus for these bonds is to construct facilities. And that means construction crews architectural firms are responsible for doing that. And that sort of makes sure that the use of the funds was very focused. So it was very well done.
Terrific. And Carolyn, could you tell me truly, what is the purpose of CBOC?
The purpose of CBOC is actually to be the oversight committee over bonds. And they represent the taxpayers. They're actually to monitor expenditures, one, but most important to report to the public, what are those expenditures? So that's really the most critical part, because the taxpayer wants to know where their tax dollars are going. So that's probably the most important part of it. And the other part is that we want taxpayers to participate as a committee member in the oversight. And that can be a challenge for some school districts, but that's the intent. And the other one is, when you review the expenditures, you're making sure that it's on the project list for the bond measure. You're making sure that all the expenditures are correct. And you're making sure that you're reviewing the annual audit, performance audit. But it's a very important role, and one that's not taken lightly by most CBOC members.
So I have a question for you, Tom. Ultimately, the board, the CBOC members, are they responsible to the carrier of the bond, or to the taxpayer, or the citizens, if you will?
The answer to that is yes. They're responsible to all of the above. But most of all, they're responsible to the taxpayers, to the property owners, to the voters, to the parents and guardians, and of course, the students. They are not responsible to the governing board, the Board of Education, or the community college district. They are responsible to the various stakeholders, and they are responsible to the bondholders. That's an important step for their security as well. So is the money being properly spent? Is it being spent on approved projects? Are these projects legal? And are the oversight matters being taken care of? Is there a control system in place? Are there reports coming out? Is the public being informed? And is the BOC getting to the public what's going on and reporting as is required? That's the basics of what the BOC is about. Communications, oversight, and communications about oversight.